Sophia Reynolds whispered to herself, "I should not be here," as she sat alone at the edge of the grand wedding hall. The golden afternoon sunlight streaming through tall windows casting intricate patterns across the polished marble floors and the elegant floral arrangements surrounding her. The hum of conversation, laughter, and soft piano music floated in the air, contrasting sharply with the tight knot of loneliness in her chest, her hands folded neatly in her lap, dark skin glowing subtly. Under the warm light, her eyes scanning the crowd with cautious curiosity while her toddler played quietly at a nearby table, unnoticed by most guests. The delicate rustle of her dress and the faint scent of lavender from her perfume mingled with the aroma of fresh flowers, emphasizing the quiet dignity she carried despite the isolation. And as she adjusted her posture, the camera would linger on her contemplative expression, capturing the subtle tension of a single mother navigating a space filled with joy and celebration that she felt only on the periphery. A soft murmur of a toast echoed from the far end of the hall, and Sophia's eyes flitted momentarily to the grand chandelier overhead, the crystals catching the light in a way that highlighted the meticulous details of the room, every corner alive with movement and muted whispers, yet she remained a solitary figure framed in the golden light, her presence understated yet poignant, a striking contrast to the jubilant energy around her. It was then that Lucas Romano entered, his tailored black suit impeccable, his posture exuding calm authority. The sunlight catching the subtle angles of his face and the slight shadow cast across his pale skin creating a cinematic intensity, his gaze sweeping the hall until it landed on Sophia, and in that moment, the distance between them was charged with an unspoken invitation, a tension that suggested the unfolding of a dark romance. Sophia's breath caught in her throat as she registered his presence, a mixture of awe and apprehension coursing through her, the soft folds of her dress shifting as she instinctively straightened, and the camera would linger on the brief flicker of a smile and the spark of recognition in her eyes, emphasizing the immediate chemistry and emotional stakes. Lucas moved slowly through the crowd, each step measured, his polished shoes clicking softly on the marble. The ambient light glinting off the cufflinks and tie clip, highlighting the meticulous care he took in his appearance, and when he finally approached Sophia, the space between them felt both intimate and expansive, a cinematic beat pregnant with possibility and suspense, the surrounding music softening to accentuate their proximity. He paused just a few feet away, eyes meeting hers with a calm intensity that made the world feel suspended, and in a voice low but clear, he offered the words that would shift the course of the evening. "Pretend you are my wife and dance with me," a gentle command laced with intrigue, the background chatter fading into a subtle hum as Sophia's heart raced, her inner conflict and curiosity captured in a single, lingering close-up. The cinematic framing emphasizing both the vulnerability and resilience of her character in this pivotal opening moment of the story. Sophia Reynolds took a careful breath, allowing her eyes to adjust to the warm glow of the chandeliers as the guests continued their celebrations around her, the gentle murmur of conversation blending with the soft piano notes drifting through the hall, each sound grounding her in the reality of the moment while her mind wandered briefly to the challenges she had faced as a single mother, the quiet nights spent planning meals, paying bills, and ensuring her child had everything needed despite limited resources, her dark skin catching the ambient light, highlighting the subtle curves of her face and the natural texture of her hair pulled back neatly, creating a portrait of composed resilience that contrasted with the lively energy around her. She adjusted the hem of her elegant dress and smoothed her posture. A small act of preparation as she considered the unexpected proposal from Lucas Romano, the Mafia Boss whose presence had suddenly shifted the atmosphere, his tailored suit reflecting the chandelier light and emphasizing his commanding yet approachable aura, eyes locking with hers across the crowded room in a silent moment of anticipation, the camera focusing on the slight catch of her breath, the quiet flutter of her chest, and the tension in her hands as they rested lightly in her lap. Sophia's gaze drifted briefly to her child, playing quietly at the edge of the dance floor, small movements precise and attentive, a reminder of her dual role as both mother and participant in this unfolding social dance. The surrounding guests oblivious to the delicate balance she maintained between personal reflection and social engagement. The texture of her dress and the polished marble floor creating subtle visual cues that framed her as a figure of dignity and grace, the sunlight filtering through the tall windows cast intricate patterns on the floor, the reflections dancing lightly across the polished surfaces, mirroring the subtle shifts of emotion in Sophia's expression as she weighed the weight of Lucas's request, the possibility of connection, and the complexities of performing a role she had never imagined, all while maintaining composure in a space alive with elegance and expectation. The soft strain of music underscored the delicate rhythm of her breathing, the occasional clink of glasses punctuating the background, creating a cinematic tableau in which each detail, from the gentle curl of a stray hair to the tilt of her head, contributed to a rich sensory environment that enhanced both the visual and emotional storytelling, reinforcing the realism and relatability of her character. As Lucas approached, his movements precise and measured, the subtle glint of cufflinks catching the light, Sophia's eyes followed each step with a mixture of curiosity, caution, and growing anticipation, the air between them charged with a quiet tension that hinted at the possibilities to come, the interplay of light, shadow, and human expression captured in a moment poised between hesitation and engagement, allowing viewers to feel the full emotional weight of her experience and the narrative promise of the dark romance unfolding. Lucas Romano adjusted his cufflinks with precise, deliberate movements as he stepped into the center of the wedding hall, his dark eyes scanning the room with an effortless authority, the soft light reflecting off his tailored black suit and casting subtle highlights across his pale skin, the polished marble floors beneath him mirroring the ambient glow of chandeliers above, creating a cinematic setting where every detail emphasized both control and sophistication. The hum of conversation, clinking glasses, and soft piano notes faded slightly as his gaze met Sophia Reynolds, her posture poised yet slightly tense, the dark skin of her shoulders and the carefully styled curls of her hair illuminated by the warm sunlight streaming through the tall windows, her eyes wide with curiosity and a flicker of nervous anticipation, capturing the delicate balance between vulnerability and inner strength that defined her presence. As he approached, each step measured, deliberate, and calm, the subtle rhythm of the hall accentuated the tension and anticipation, while Sophia instinctively adjusted the hem of her dress and smoothed her posture, the light catching the intricate details of the fabric, creating depth and texture that reinforced the cinematic quality of the moment. Lucas's expression remained composed yet inviting, a slight tilt of his head and a soft, measured smile hinting at warmth beneath the authoritative exterior, his presence commanding attention without overwhelming the space, drawing both Sophia and the surrounding guests into the unspoken narrative between them. The camera lingering on their mutual recognition and the subtle chemistry in their body language, Sophia's breath caught as the distance between them closed, the quiet flutter of her chest and the gentle tension in her hands accentuating the emotional weight of the interaction, while the ambient music, the soft reflections on polished surfaces, and the warm glow of sunlight coalesced into a rich sensory tableau that heightened the romantic tension and deepened the viewer's connection to the unfolding story. Her mind raced briefly through the possibilities of this unexpected moment, considering the delicate line between hesitation and engagement, the responsibilities she bore as a mother, and the curiosity sparked by Lucas's poised confidence, while her fingers tightened slightly on the edge of her chair for grounding. The subtle shifts of light across her skin and dress capturing both vulnerability and grace, the camera would follow the slight incline of Lucas's shoulders, the controlled cadence of his movements, and the nuanced interplay of expressions that spoke volumes without words, framing a cinematic tableau of anticipation, chemistry, and character depth, as Sophia felt a mixture of intrigue, cautious trust, and the first spark of emotional connection, all encapsulated in a single, fluid moment of heightened awareness. Every ambient detail, from the soft murmur of nearby guests to the reflective sheen of marble and crystal, served to emphasize the realism and emotional resonance of the scene, allowing viewers to experience the subtle nuances of their interaction and the cinematic tension that defined the early stage of their complex, evolving relationship in this dark romance narrative. Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano stood together near the center of the wedding hall, the atmosphere charged with a subtle tension as an unexpected third party, a rival guest whose presence carried a sense of intrigue and challenge, moved quietly through the crowd, their eyes occasionally flicking toward the pair, measuring, calculating, while Sophia adjusted her posture slightly, the soft folds of her dress catching the golden light streaming from the chandeliers above, highlighting the rich texture of the fabric and the warmth of her dark skin, and Lucas, his tailored black suit reflecting the ambient glow, maintained an air of calm authority, his gaze unwavering, scanning both Sophia and the surrounding guests with precision. His pale skin and sharp features catching the light in a cinematic manner that emphasized his control and subtle charm. The ambient sounds of the hall, the clinking of glasses, quiet laughter, and soft piano notes, served as a backdrop to the delicate dance of awareness and movement, each step and glance carefully observed, each gesture contributing to the evolving narrative between the three individuals, the polished marble floor reflecting the light and their movements in a way that reinforced the cinematic quality of the scene, capturing the contrast between vulnerability, authority, and quiet strategy. Sophia's hands flexed lightly at her sides, the small tension in her fingers betraying a mix of nervous anticipation and measured readiness, her eyes flicking to the rival and back to Lucas, noting the subtle cues in body language. The shifts in posture, the micro-expressions that carried meaning without words, while Lucas remained composed, offering a gentle yet commanding presence that guided the energy of the moment. His subtle adjustments and quiet attentiveness a protective and stabilizing force as the dynamic unfolded. The lighting accentuated every detail, the warm glow highlighting the curves of Sophia's face and the contours of her hair, the shadows adding depth to Lucas's profile, the chandeliers and soft reflections creating an immersive environment that pulled the viewer into the tension and intrigue of the interaction, the spatial dynamics of the hall enhancing the sense of intimacy and heightened awareness between characters. As the rival moved closer, the pair's subtle synchronization became apparent. The small movements and shifts in orientation revealing a silent communication, a coordination that spoke of trust, awareness, and the underlying connection forming between Sophia and Lucas, even in the presence of potential challenge, emphasizing the growing emotional and narrative stakes. The camera would linger on these nuanced interactions, capturing the balance of control, vulnerability, and anticipation. Each glance and microgesture providing insight into character motivations and the developing connection, while the ambient details, the polished floors, soft music, warm lighting, and elegant decor reinforced the realism and cinematic depth of the moment, allowing the audience to feel both the suspense and the emerging romantic tension. Setting the stage for the unfolding dark romance between Sophia and Lucas within the vibrant yet challenging social environment of the wedding hall. Sophia Reynolds took a slow, deliberate breath as she rose from her seat, the soft rustle of her dress blending with the gentle murmur of conversation and the faint strains of piano music that filled the wedding hall. Sunlight streaming through tall windows casting a warm glow across her dark skin and the polished marble floors, highlighting the delicate folds of her attire and the subtle tension in her posture. She adjusted her shoulders and smoothed the fabric of her dress with careful precision, her eyes meeting Lucas Romano's, his presence commanding yet comforting, the tailored black suit reflecting the light in a way that emphasized both his authority and his understated elegance, a soft smile playing at the corners of his lips as he extended a hand in a gesture of invitation, the hall around them alive with movement, laughter, and soft music, yet a quiet bubble of anticipation and connection seemed to form between them. Sophia's gaze briefly flickered toward her child, sitting quietly nearby, playful yet observant, a reminder of the responsibilities she carried and the delicate balance between her own desires and her protective instincts, the surrounding guests oblivious to the intimate tension building in the center of the room, their soft laughter and polite murmurs forming a gentle ambient backdrop. As she stepped toward Lucas, her heel clicking softly on the marble floor, the sunlight catching the highlights in her hair, her movements deliberate and graceful, the camera lingering on the subtle rise and fall of her chest, the tiny flutter of her hands adjusting the hem of her dress, and the way her eyes reflected a mixture of curiosity, hesitation, and emerging excitement. Lucas's expression remained composed and reassuring, his dark eyes fixed on Sophia with a calm intensity, the faint sheen of light on his skin and the crisp folds of his suit creating a cinematic focus on his authority tempered by warmth, his posture relaxed but attentive, guiding the moment with gentle gestures that communicated both reassurance and intrigue. The ambient light shifted slightly as clouds moved past the windows, casting soft, dynamic shadows across the polished surfaces, emphasizing the textures of the floor, the glint of glassware, and the shimmer of decorations, creating a rich visual depth that mirrored the evolving emotional landscape of the scene. Sophia's inner thoughts raced briefly, considering the complexity of this unexpected situation. The challenge of navigating social expectations while honoring her own feelings, and the subtle cues in Lucas's expression that suggested both sincerity and playful challenge, her fingers tightening slightly in anticipation as she moved closer. Each step a measured negotiation between hesitation and courage. The music swelled gently, drawing attention to the space between them, the warmth of the light, and the subtle intimacy forming in their interaction, capturing a cinematic tableau that emphasized grace, poise, and the delicate chemistry developing in real time. As they prepared to engage in the requested dance, every small movement, glance, and shift in posture was imbued with narrative weight, the interplay of light, reflection, and human expression creating a scene rich in tension, emotional resonance, and cinematic beauty. Establishing the foundation for the unfolding dark romance and the intricate relational dynamics between Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano in the elegant environment of the wedding hall. Sophia Reynolds felt the first gentle notes of the song begin, the melody flowing softly through the wedding hall, and she looked up at Lucas Romano, whose composed presence radiated confidence and subtle warmth, the sunlight catching the tailored black suit he wore and glinting off the polished floor beneath them, highlighting the contrast between his calm authority and the lively activity of the guests around them. She took a careful step toward him, adjusting the hem of her dress and letting her eyes meet his, the tension of anticipation balanced with a growing sense of curiosity and excitement, her dark skin glowing in the golden light and her hair styled neatly, every small movement deliberate yet graceful, emphasizing both her composure and the underlying vulnerability that made the moment so compelling. Lucas extended his hand with quiet assurance, his gaze never leaving hers, guiding her into position with a soft, measured smile that communicated trust and gentle encouragement, and as their hands touched, the subtle electricity of connection passed between them, the camera lingering on the delicate interplay of gestures, the tilt of heads, and the gentle rise and fall of breaths that conveyed emotion without words. The surrounding guests continued their conversations and laughter, their movements blurred slightly in the background, creating a cinematic focus on Sophia and Lucas, the polished marble, glinting chandeliers, and reflective surfaces adding depth and richness to the scene, enhancing the sense of intimacy despite the crowded setting. Sophia allowed herself to take another step. Feeling the security of Lucas's guidance and the elegance of the moment, her eyes tracing the careful movements and expressions, noting the subtle nuances of his posture, the tilt of his chin, the calm authority in his demeanor that contrasted beautifully with the soft vulnerability of her own stance, each detail captured in cinematic lighting that emphasized textures, depth, and realism. The song's rhythm guided their movements, each step in perfect harmony, the polished floor reflecting faint highlights of motion, the ambient light and music combining to create a sensory tableau that drew the viewer into the emotional heartbeat of the scene, while Lucas maintained a steady, composed presence, subtly supporting and reassuring Sophia through each movement and glance. Sophia's thoughts briefly wandered to her child, safely nearby. The reminder of her responsibilities and the careful balance she maintained adding an additional layer of depth to her awareness. And yet she felt the quiet thrill of connection and possibility in the dance. The warmth of Lucas's hand and the attentiveness in his eyes conveying trust and subtle care that enhanced the dark romance unfolding. The camera captured the intricate details of their interaction. From the delicate sway of the dress to the reflection of light on polished surfaces, the expressive tension in their eyes, and the understated elegance of their gestures, creating a cinematic moment rich with anticipation, emotional resonance, and visual depth. Emphasizing both the intimacy and the complexity of the evolving relationship between Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano within the vibrant and elegant environment of the wedding hall. Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano continued to move gracefully across the polished marble floor of the wedding hall, their steps synchronized to the gentle rhythm of the music, each movement deliberate and fluid. The golden light from the chandeliers casting a warm glow that accentuated the subtle details of their attire and the soft highlights on Sophia's dark skin and Lucas's pale complexion, emphasizing the elegance and sophistication of the moment. As they twirled lightly, Sophia's fingers brushed the edge of Lucas's tailored sleeve, a subtle touch that conveyed both trust and a growing curiosity, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of anticipation and cautious excitement, while Lucas maintained an air of calm control, his posture composed, shoulders relaxed, and gaze focused entirely on her. creating a cinematic tableau of intimacy and poise amidst the bustling celebration around them. The guests' soft chatter and laughter formed a gentle, ambient soundtrack, blending seamlessly with the piano and string instruments, enhancing the sense of cinematic depth while ensuring the focus remained on the nuanced interaction between Sophia and Lucas, the polished floor reflecting the soft light and their movements, adding an additional layer of visual richness that captured the elegance and romance of the scene. Sophia felt a surge of emotion as she noticed the subtle ways Lucas adjusted his hold, the faint smile at the corners of his lips, and the warm, steady gaze that communicated reassurance and encouragement, each detail amplifying the tension and emotional resonance, while she consciously maintained her posture. Balancing vulnerability with composure, the rhythm of her breath synchronized with the flow of their dance. The sunlight streaming through the tall windows shifted slightly, casting long, delicate shadows across the hall and creating dynamic reflections on the crystal decorations and polished surfaces, highlighting the contrast between light and shadow, intimacy and grandeur, and drawing attention to the expressions and subtle gestures that conveyed narrative depth without dialogue. As they moved together, Sophia's thoughts flickered briefly to her child, playing quietly at a nearby table, the reminder of responsibility and maternal care grounding her amidst the exhilaration of the moment, while Lucas's steady presence provided a sense of security and controlled guidance. His every movement designed to ease tension and encourage confidence, their interaction forming a delicate balance of trust and emerging connection. The camera would linger on their expressions, capturing the quiet smiles, glances, and shared awareness that built an emotional bridge between them, emphasizing the growing bond and romantic tension, while the hall's ambient details, the soft gleam of chandeliers, the reflections on marble, and the interplay of warm and shadowed light, enhanced the cinematic realism, immersing viewers in the sensory richness and emotional depth of the unfolding dark romance between Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano, setting the stage for the next pivotal moments in their story. Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano moved together across the polished marble floor as the music swelled, their steps synchronized in a delicate rhythm that reflected both growing confidence and subtle emotional connection. The warm glow of the chandeliers above casting intricate patterns of light and shadow across Sophia's dark skin and Lucas's pale complexion, emphasizing the cinematic quality of their interaction. The soft murmur of guests, the clink of glasses, and the faint piano notes created a rich auditory backdrop that highlighted the intimacy of the moment, while Sophia's fingers lightly brushed Lucas's hand as she followed his lead, a gentle touch conveying trust, anticipation, and a budding understanding, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of curiosity and cautious excitement. Capturing the delicate balance between vulnerability and composure that defined her character, Lucas maintained an air of calm authority, his movements precise and measured, the subtle tilt of his head and the soft expression in his eyes communicating reassurance and understated warmth, his presence creating a safe space in which Sophia could navigate her emotions while engaging fully in the dance. The cinematic framing emphasizing the interplay of light, shadow, and human expression to capture every nuance of body language and facial gesture. The sunlight streaming through tall windows shifted as clouds passed, casting dynamic patterns across the floor and highlighting the soft movement of Sophia's dress and the glint of Lucas's cufflinks, creating a layered visual depth that enhanced the romantic tension and the elegance of their surroundings, the polished surfaces reflecting light to underscore the sophistication and grace of the scene. Sophia's inner thoughts flickered briefly to her child playing quietly nearby, the reminder of her responsibilities grounding her awareness even as she allowed herself to be swept into the rhythm of the dance. The subtle warmth of Lucas's hand and the attentiveness in his gaze providing reassurance and a sense of connection that deepened the emotional resonance of the moment. The camera would linger on small, expressive gestures, the gentle sway of Sophia's dress, the controlled motion of Lucas's steps, the delicate glances and brief smiles shared between them, each detail reinforcing the growing intimacy and trust. While the ambient elements of the wedding hall, from the sparkling chandeliers to the polished marble floors and softly blurred guests, contributed to a rich, cinematic tableau that allowed viewers to feel fully immersed in the unfolding dark romance. As the music carried them through a series of coordinated turns and careful movements, Sophia felt a rising sense of confidence and subtle joy, her breath syncing with the rhythm, the slight lift of her shoulders and the glow in her eyes conveying both personal triumph and an emerging emotional bond, while Lucas's composed presence and attentive guidance reinforced the narrative tension and romantic development, creating a visually and emotionally compelling scene that balanced elegance, intimacy, and cinematic storytelling, setting the stage for the climactic moments of trust, connection, and the subtle unfolding of their dark romance within the luminous environment of the wedding hall. Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano completed their final steps across the polished marble floor of the wedding hall, the music fading softly into a gentle hum, sunlight streaming through tall windows casting warm, elongated reflections across the elegant surfaces, highlighting the subtle textures of Sophia's dark skin and the soft curls of her hair, as well as the crisp lines of Lucas's tailored black suit and the pale complexion of his face, creating a cinematic tableau of resolution and quiet. Intimacy. Sophia allowed herself a small, genuine smile, the tension of anticipation melting into a calm sense of accomplishment and shared understanding, while Lucas's gaze held a soft warmth, a subtle acknowledgement of the trust and connection that had developed throughout the dance. Their eyes meeting in a moment of mutual recognition that conveyed more than words ever could, the surrounding guests' chatter and laughter fading into a gentle backdrop that emphasized the emotional center of the scene. The ambient light shifted slightly with the movement of the sun, creating dynamic patterns across the floor and walls, reflecting in the chandeliers and glassware, the polished surfaces capturing both the subtle gestures and the emotional nuance of the pair, reinforcing the cinematic quality and the visual depth of the hall, and highlighting the contrast between the lively celebration and the intimate connection unfolding within it. Sophia's thoughts lingered briefly on her child, safe nearby, a reminder of her responsibilities and the personal life she balanced with the momentary indulgence of connection and trust. While Lucas's composed presence and subtle attentiveness created an unspoken support that allowed her to experience a sense of ease, grace, and emotional clarity, the camera capturing the small motions, the tilt of a head, the soft sway of a dress, the gentle contact of hands, that conveyed intimacy and character depth without dialogue. As they shared this quiet conclusion to their dance, the interplay of light, shadow, and subtle movement emphasized both the realism and the emotional resonance. The polished floor reflecting glimmers of warmth from the chandelier and sunlight, and the delicate expressions on their faces telling a story of vulnerability, courage, and the early emergence of trust and romantic connection, all framed within the elegant environment of the wedding hall. The music, now faint, lingered as a soft background thread, carrying with it the emotional weight of the unfolding narrative, the ambient sounds of the guests providing a gentle counterpoint that reinforced the focus on Sophia and Lucas, allowing their expressions, gestures, and subtle interactions to remain the centerpiece of the cinematic experience. The camera would linger on the convergence of their eyes, the soft smiles, and the natural posture of ease, capturing the culmination of tension, anticipation, and emotional growth that had built throughout the sequence, creating a visually and emotionally satisfying closure that fully embodies the dark romance between Sophia Reynolds and Lucas Romano, leaving the audience immersed in both the beauty and the intimacy of the moment, while signaling the promise of continued connection and evolving narrative possibilities.